Good morning, and thank you for joining us for your Saturday morning Waker Upper. I am Alero Edu.
Ayo Makinde joining you live from Abuja. Well, I don't know how somebody is feeling about that right now, but hey.
She's feeling rather lonely.
Alero, how you doing?
She's feeling rather lonely in Lagos all by herself.
Well, at least she's not lonely at the top.
So I wonder how it is in Abuja.
Well, Abuja is the capital city, right? And it's always what it is.
Well, we're not going to talk about Abuja. We're going to talk about Benin,
quiet,
because it's all happening
if you
in Benin.
Lagos, there are some things you don't even just think about. Abuja is just. But then I don't know. Yes, I mean I heard you talk about Benin. I don't know how it is in Edo State right now.
I wonder too. But I'm sure that we'll be talking to Shehu in the course of the program so he can bring us up to speed regarding what is happening there. But the build-up to that election had me a bit worried when I heard expressions like it's do or die and the number of security personnel being deployed. And I'm thinking, what are soldiers doing in an election? This is a civil matter, and it's supposed to be the duty of the police to take care of the peace. But, well, this is Nigeria. Things are different here. We do elections as if we're actually fighting a war. So these things have to happen.
Well, I think along the line, the representatives of the governor of Edo State made comments about that, said that if the right things are not done, our lives could be at stake. So I think that's, maybe he meant it in a loose sense, maybe it was in a strict sense, that's another thing altogether. And I think we have also already settled it in this nation that election is not war. And that's also something that came from, I think, the CDS. Election is not war, and it should not be seen as such. However, from what we have been told, the heavy presence of security personnel in the various parts of the city, the various parts of Edo State, is not to intimidate, not to threaten, not to scare, but to actually instill confidence, knowing that there is believing that there is a likelihood of threats, a likelihood of unrest, a likelihood of attempts to disturb the peace. That, according to the security agencies, is the reason for all of that. Whether that is now able to secure the confidence of the people, the coming minutes or hours, as you have also suggested, Alero, will help us to understand, to see whether that strategy is working indeed. Ultimately, what do we want? We want good governance.
Yeah.
We want people to be able to go to the market and buy things that they can afford without the fear that something is going to happen and then they're not going to have peace, they're not going to enjoy what they normally would, and that when they get to the market, as I said, they don't spend their last minimum wage to buy all the food that they need, right? By the way, you said you went to the market this week?
Oh, my God. You don't want to hear about that, because I went to the market for the first time since I got back, and like they say, eti mi no. I bought a pear. I don't want to call it avocado. I bought one pear for 2,000 naira. I mean, I was tempted not to bring out the money to buy, and then I said, well, I'm not going to put the money in the pot and eat it, so I might as well just buy it since I feel like eating avocado. And one pint of tomato was 10,000 naira, what we used to pay 1,500, maximum 2,000 naira for. And 4 measly onions were 1,000 naira. And all these got me wondering, oh yeah, pint of Gary was 3,500. So what do the minimum wage people eat? Even the minimum wage, Ayo, hasn't been paid to them yet, and they're facing petrol at 950 naira per liter and food at these ridiculous prices as far as I'm concerned, because we've never bought food this expensive in this country since I was born, or since I began to understand what money was.
Well, it's only a matter of time, really. There is this belief we all have in our country that, you know, prices, when they rise, they don't come down. My prayer is that even if the prices don't come down, we will be able to make enough to get all the things that they need, and we will not beg. Because as so many economists, so many public affairs analysts have told us on this station, things have gotten increasingly worse over the years, that recalibrating, reversing that trend is going to be a difficult process. Now, that language is what we don't want to hear. Not too long ago, a few days ago, Governor of Edo State said on, I think on PoliticsToday, talking to Shion, said, Nigeria is technically bankrupt. That is something that many of us don't want to hear. And looking at the potential that we have as a country, these things shouldn't happen. And it's really a disturbing thing, Alero, when you talk about how much more expensive things have gotten over the years. The reason is quite simple. Why should we, not be able to produce some of the things that we have ourselves? You would remember, Alero, I remember my mom, when I was growing up, that we had, even though the compound was all paved and everything, she still had a small garden right, outside over her window, the kitchen window. Whenever she washed the pepper, she just poured the water right there on the bed. And before you know what is happening, the tomatoes grow, bell pepper would grow, scotch bonnet would grow, that's rodo and tatasia and tomatoes, they will grow. And she'll just pick, want to make egg, want to make small vegetable. That's where she went to. Can we go back to that? And maybe that will help us to cut the cost of food.
Ayo.
But I don't think we'll be able to do,
We're there already. I mean, I live in an estate, yes, but I found a little corner and I have put some bitter leaf, and I've recently just got some tomato seeds and I'm going to plant them. And I've got some pepper, which I'm going to plant. So we're being forced to go back to those days.
Interestingly, someone gave me a stalk of a vegetable called hospital too far.
Called what?
Yes. Hospital too far. Google it, you'll find it. I planted
okay,
and it's growing.
Okay.
Well, yes, I mean it's a kind of vegetable, and generally that's something that we diminish, we minimize. Vegetables have amazing potential for us, but we don't know. So that's what they call that thing, that it has some medicinal things that if you Google it, you'll find quite a number of those things right there. So these are the initiatives that we just need to be smart. We are not going to die or leave this country simply because, as a matter of fact, someone was just telling me, was it yesterday or before yesterday, that things aren't so much cheaper elsewhere. That, I mean, this phenomenon we're experiencing is something that's all over the world. I've not been all over the world, but there are those who have gone there and say, look, things aren't any much easier in other parts of the world as well. So we can as well make lemonade with our lemon here in this country. So just be smart about it. But we can do that with food, right? Can we do that with fuel?
Well, I mean, I found it quite refreshing in the course of the week when I saw on social media testimonies from public transport drivers saying that since they converted to CNG, they were spending a lot less on fuel. And I thought, okay, they say it costs about $1 million to convert your car, and then you buy CNG about 3/4 of the price of petrol, in some cases half. So in the long run, is it worth it converting your car? I would say yes.
Well, let me help you. Let me help you with a bit of mathematics, Alero. So let's say you spend, and I think I've done this a couple of times. Let's say you spend 50,000 naira to fill your tank. I'm just saying, let's say, because there are some people watching me now who will say, "What are you talking about, Ayo? I spent 80,000. In fact, I spent 100,000." We're not talking about rich people like you yet, But just imagine that you spend 50,000 naira a week to fuel your tank, and that's just the average, because there are those who spend more to fuel their tanks.
Yeah.
So you spend 50,000 naira in a week to fuel your tank. Multiply that by 4. That's 200,000 naira in a month. Please, multiply 200,000 naira by 12. I think you have an idea of where I'm going. So you're spending about 2-point-something million.
At this point, I think okay, we should go to the menu. You have disheartened me enough for me to want to get on with the program and not chat with you anymore for today. So we're going to start by taking a look at unresolved electoral reforms.
Absolutely. And then yellow fever, measles, and vaccination, NPV vaccination is also on the menu.
And then we look at Junior Achievement Nigeria's Venture Management Program.
Lifestyle today. Children are back in school. Parent-teacher partnership. Those homeworks that you take to school and those schoolwork that you take home. Let's get into that conversation on lifestyle today.
And then, as is usual, we shall close with the Artist of the Week segment. So in the meantime, Ayo, what do you have with you? Cocoa?
Unfortunately, my cup of cocoa is in Lagos with you right there. But maybe when I'm done, I'll go get some cocoa.
Good idea. All over the world, electoral reform is an integral part of democratic development aimed at improving electoral process by upholding the electoral rights of citizens. Nigeria has a long history of electoral reforms from different political transition processes since independence. With each transition, at some points, a new electoral commission was created. Now, we're looking at this and we're going to link it to the main issue of today, the big thing that's happening in our country today, which is the election that is taking place in Edo State. And to look at this with us this morning, it's my pleasure to welcome one legal practitioner in the studio with us, Chief Godi Uwazurike.
Thank you. Morning, Princess.
Another legal practitioner who joins us via Zoom, Mr. Tony Dania. Hi, Tony. Okay, we have Dr. Yunusa Zakari Yao, the convener, Nigeria's Civil Society Situation Room, who naturally joins us from Benin. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
We can't wait to hear what you have to say to us about what is taking place in Benin at the moment. But let me start with Chief, who's in the studio here with us. Chief, we have tried to tweak our electoral process or electoral laws a number of times. There have been several reforms. How well would you say we have done on this road to getting, I don't want to use the word perfect, a better electoral process?
I think I would say a credible electoral process.
A credible one.
Because there's no election that is perfect in any part of the world.
Yeah.
But in Nigeria here, we seem to have learned nothing and we have forgotten nothing. What do I mean by that? As of this morning, voters were already on in various centers in Edo State. Elections start by 8. Yet,
8:30.
Or 8:30. A few minutes line, the vehicles were yet to depart from the centers. We have been planning for this election for the past 1 year. Yet, the day of the election, we are not ready. So the electoral reforms, yes, we do our best by asking for reforms based on what we have seen. It's like the more things change, the more they remain the same. As at yesterday, the fear was that results had been written. As at yesterday, the fear was that fake tags had been given to people. As at yesterday, the fear was, will there be violence? What of the thugs? They say some thugs have been arrested. The unfortunate thing is that all the thugs are said to belong to one party. The thugs belonging to the other major party, nobody touches them. So we're talking of electoral reforms. It appears the problem, 99%, is with the referee, the umpire, in this case, INEC. If INEC is firm and strict and truly independent, it will do the right things. Let me just give you an example by taking you back to the last presidential election. When results are announced, what are you supposed to do? You sign result sheets and hand over. But then, it turned out that when Peter Obi and Atiku said, where are the certified results, they were asked to pay, and they paid. As I'm speaking to you, Peter Obi never got his own up to today. And when he went to tribunal and said, where is it? They said, oh, you should have used any other means. They never told INEC, why don't you give these people their results? So the more things change, the more they remain the same. In other words, the people of Nigeria are becoming fed up. In other words, they're asking, how do we get the kind of credible results we look forward to? Yes, we know people die, we know people fall, we know things, but it is you, the umpire, who will sit up and say, no, it will not happen. Edo State is boiling with the desire of the people to have a credible election.
Yeah. Before we swing to Ayo, let me quickly ask Dr. Yao. You are on ground in Benin, and it is now 9:25. Have elections started?
Thank you very much for that. I think it's quite an even process. In a number of polling units, INEC officials, election materials are still yet to arrive at the polling units. In other words, that there are still no election taking place in those units. In a few places, of course, the accreditation is going on and voters are on the queue and so forth. But as I said, it's quite uneven. And it's quite surprising because up to yesterday night, INEC had given assurance that the materials would be there on time and that everything was going to be fine. They even told us that they had done the flood mapping, which means that they have isolated areas they expected there is going to be rain and there would be flood, and therefore they have taken mitigation measures so that the voting materials would be available at the right time. But here, right, even in Benin City, in Oredo local governments, we have units where materials have not reached, and it's quite surprising because if within Benin City there are areas where polling materials are yet to arrive, you wonder how in other places outside Benin, in far reaches of states
Yes.
would be preparing.
Ayo.
Well, let me stick with Mr. Zakaria for a moment or two. Now, in what way? I mean, because was it yesterday or 2 days ago? Yes, 2 days ago, excuse me, we were hearing that election materials had gotten to Benin City, and in fact, there were videos to show that they were already being moved to the various areas of the state where the elections would take place. How come those materials are still not able to get to where they're supposed to get to on time?
Well, you see, there are two stages to the distribution of election materials. The first is from the central point to the local government areas, which is where the racks are. Now, what was observed 2 days ago was actually that distribution from the state secretariat and CBN to the local government secretariat. Now, from local government secretariat, they should have been distributed right from yesterday. I went to Eredo yesterday, the INEC office there, where they were distributing the material. Now, distribution doesn't mean arriving at the point that they are supposed to be. So election officials were collecting those materials, and it was expected that they would leave, So whether they decided just simply to sleep and got up late, or whether they had no vehicles, or whether something happened, I think this is something that INEC should be able to explain to Nigerians, because people really are looking for answers or questions that are critical in determining the credibility and fairness of the election.
Well, something that Chief Wazirike said earlier was that it would seem like we do not learn from our experiences. In what ways would you say these experiences that you have described are just a repetition of some of the things that have been happening and that we have been shouting about? Or is there anything that you can say has improved from the last election?
I think in general, from 1999 to this very moment, there's one central common denominator to our election, which is our inability to manage election materials distribution. I think that in terms of the law, we have made progress, but the implementation of that law is quite a serious problem. And I think that unless we have a mechanism to deal with impunity, then we will not be able to make progress, no matter what reforms that we have done. I mean, you have a whole year to prepare for elections. You have a whole week to move election materials to wherever they should reach. Even if you are carrying them on donkey, I mean, we should be able to have them delivered at the right time. But a few kilometers, people have not been able to deliver them. I think that there's certain element of impunity in the way in which we handle election thing. And I think that part of the reasons are two. One, because we have not been able to have a proper election crime commission in this country, where people have been talking about it for long. The OAS Commission made recommendation and that an independent electoral commission, election crime commission should be set up so that it can try people who, one way or the other, sabotage election in this country. That has not been done. And so we hardly see people being punished, people being prosecuted for electoral commission, crimes that they have committed in this country. The second thing I think for me is that I think that we need to safeguard the independence of INEC itself. And when I say to safeguard it, the process of appointing electoral commissioners and INEC chief election officer must be done in such a way that it's inspire confidence, it's truly independent. It's not a prerogative of the president that unilaterally nominates, sent to a National Assembly that is usually dominated by a particular party at the time. So in that case, you are not able to get the independence you want, even if the parameters around which they are appointed claims to be the give them independence.
Okay, Chief.
Well,
Dr. Yao mentioned impunity, and I picked on that word because some people have said that even INEC needs to be looked at, with a microscope. Because if you recall the last elections, we were given the rhetoric about beavers machines and how results were going to uploaded from the polling centers straight, and you could follow online and know exactly what was happening. But that didn't happen, and nobody took any rap for it. And you know yourself that a lot of people went out to get their voters' cards because of that particular rhetoric that was sold to the people, because they believed that their votes wouldn't matter. What do you think should be done to make sure that INEC does what it is supposed to do to engender the confidence of the voting public?
Well, they say, where I come from, that fish is spoiled from head. Then when the head don't spoil, everything follows. Let me just narrow it down to appointments, like my brother just said, of the chairman of INEC. As of today, it is Mr. President who has the responsibility of nominating. He discusses with the Council of State. He goes to the other place at the National Assembly, or they sign and approve. The chairman naturally is grateful to those who appointed him. That's the law of nature. So when that happens, the president can do no wrong unless you have a unique situation where you have a broad-minded president and then another person who will now say, okay, I know the president is broad-minded, he will not deal with me. That is where things will not go along this route. But as of today, we have the chairman of INEC who says, so we are promises heaven and earth and delivers nothing. Then you have the State Resident Electoral Commission. Let me just give you an example of Lagos. The last election in Lagos was like civil war. First, to collect your voters' card or whatever, INEC ID and so on and so forth, up till now, many people have not received their own, and there's no plans to even help them receive. Election day, violence non-stop. And I'm happy channels and other TV stations carried the whole thing live. And what the Resident Electoral Commission say, the commissioner in Lagos State, Lagos was free, there was no violence, there was nothing like that. And in psychology, they say when somebody is telling a lie, look at the upper part of the lips. When somebody is telling a lie, if you have not observed it, start observing it.
What happens to that upper lip?
The upper one. There is a shape it takes. If you have not notice their government officials when they speak. You see the IG of police talking. Everywhere is free and fair. Just watch. You see the army man, we're in control. In other words, they know that they are deceiving us. So if they want us to believe them from now on, go back to the 2023 elections. All those people who carried ballot boxes, we saw them. All those who faked the results, in some cases, we even had results bigger than registered voters. That one is so simple and easy. Charge them to court. You ask the police, say, well, it's INEC. Ask INEC. INEC said there's no such law for us. At the national conference 10 years ago, we recommended this Electoral Offenses Commission. We recommended fresh move to appoint chairman from another place who will not be answerable and who will not say, oh, Mr. President has told me. We made some recommendations, handed over to Jonathan. Jonathan handed over to National Assembly. Those ones that required constitutional As soon as Buhari said, I will not even look at anything there. And he never did. The current president, the buck stops and is double. He knows what to do. My worry is that the horizon where we look at whenever we're in office, always, who will challenge me in this place? Who will remove me? How do I get reelected? Who will remove my power? And it's so bad that even when we leave office, you see yourself as the supremo. Look at River State. Governor has come, done his 8 years and gone. My friend, leave Lagos State, leave Rivers now. Let the governor pray, no, you want to destroy my network. So in this country, the first problem is the person. Like Obasanjo said sometime, the restructuring should start with our minds. When you restructure your attitude to government, now that you have a chance, Mr. President, you have a chance, do something. Let's start with Edo State. Edo State is today. A simple instruction to the IG of police, no partiality. Be fair to all. Let the votes count. Let us get the wishes of the people. And once you do that, and they know that Mr. President is a no-nonsense person, everybody fall in line. But if they think Mr. President is anything goes, after all, the Chief Justice is there, all of them are there to do the bidding. They will do what they want.
Go to court.
Go to court is the slogan now, go to court. Knowing very well that the courts are congested and number of judges has reduced. They know that. So, Ayo, to be honest, restructuring starts with how we look at governance and the process of coming to government. Our attitude towards enforcing the law is what we're asking for. In other words, IG of police, you are the IG of police for the whole country, not for a political party. And the DIG leading the police contingent, they are not there to help a particular person. But there is something else I will say on this issue. If you want to be my governor, please engage in debates. Let us hear you directly. Edo State up till now cannot say they had all the candidates.
Mm-hmm.
Up till now, they did not hear the candidates. So if the candidate who did not even talk to them wins, anything goes.
But they say that debates do not win elections. But that's discussion for another day. Ayo.
Well, yes, I was actually hoping that we'll still have Mr. Daniel with us this morning as well. But let me ask you, Chief. For me, one of the most disturbing things in this entire process is the people, that we are not able to carry the people along well enough, that we're not able to prepare the people well enough. That most of the time, the political rhetorics tend to take the shine of the electoral process proper. So people are even finding it difficult making up their minds. The political class is always, particularly the political parties, intra-party crisis, one party after the other, having one issue or the other, while the candidates themselves are going out there. So even that tends to take away the shine of the real issues of governance, doesn't it? Making it difficult for the people to really even be able to choose who would be the best person to govern us.
Well, communication is one word I like, and it helps a lot. You want to be my leader? Communicate to me. Talk to me on what you want to do. You want to be my boss? Communicate to me. But where it is a case of some other person coming to tell me, this is what Mr. A will do, this is what Mr. B will do, it's hearsay. And if it is hearsay, believe you me, there is no expectation. What I have in mind that you will do may not be what you want to do. Let me just give you one small example. Trump and Kamala Harris engaged in debate the other day. Half of the politically aware class in Lagos State did not sleep. They sat up all night to listen to two people in America, and I know it was at the whole world. But what happens in Nigeria here? We take it for granted. Oh, you belong to party A, therefore everything is fine. You belong to party B. Merit must be the deciding factor in my choice. And when there is merit, that is when there will be expectation. But when there is no expectation, it is anything goes. Right now, we're in trouble in this country. Right now, even the government officials are asking us to bear with us. Things are hard, they will get better. Was that what you promised us?
Well, let's quickly cross to Dare in where it's happening right now in Benin City to give us an idea of what's happening on the streets and how the whole preparation is going. Good morning, Dare. Where exactly are you, and how has it been between last night and this moment?
Good morning, Ayo. Of course, I'm reaching you live here in Edo State. I'm at Eco Local Government. This particular primary school is called Olua Primary School here in Uselu. We got here quite early. The whole activities, it is actually a rack where most non-sensitive sensitive materials were moved from. So we got here quite early. We have those visuals of people. By people, I mean officials, packing those materials, moving to different local government. There was a bit of a delay because as at, say, 8:40, there were still some officials waiting to be conveyed to the different polling units. And that's because they said they needed to wait for the security to accompany them. But at this particular center, there are about 8 polling units, starting from 10, unit 10, unit 9, 8, 7, down to 3. And in each of the polling units, voting commenced quite early. And that's because this is Iraq. They started setting up quite early. And by 8:30, there were a lot of people on the queue. Okay. But usually there's always this kind of situation. I don't know. There was an altercation there. But so they were quite on the queue. And the voting started the usual drill. The ad hoc officials who talk them through the processes, the beavers, how it would work. You get the accreditation done by your scanning through your thumbprint, and if it fails, they try the facial verification process. So, and it's been going on quite well, quite orderly as well. People are joining the queue. They're casting the votes, and some of them are leaving. But again, because we've been moving around and also trying to get information, I have a resident here who may be talking to us about what he's observed so far. He's been going around. Please, let's start with your name and you're a resident of this community, I guess.
My name is Esusa Moregbe, and I'm a resident within the Uselu area.
Okay, please talk to us about the process, what you've observed so far. Voting has commenced since 8:30. What are your observations?
Well, so far so good. The security agencies are on ground, providing confidence for the people to come out and vote. And people are streaming out from their houses to come and cast their ballot. Although voting has not commenced in some polling units, but then in this particular polling booth, people have started voting. And the electoral process has been peaceful so far.
Peaceful so far, but these polling units you're talking about, are they close by? Where are they?
They are within a cluster of this environment, so but they've not commenced yet.
So when you got there, what are your observations? What are the feelers you're getting from people on ground?
Well, people on ground said that they've seen officials, they just want to set up and then comment.
Okay, thank you very much for talking to us at this point. We are present in different local governments and also checking with so many units. So I just met him. After this crossing, I would also touch base, look at what is happening elsewhere. But from my observation so far, I've been talking to either Sheo in another local government or Jessica in another local government. Voting a bit delayed in some polling units, but so far, by and large, it's been quite peaceful rather, and also going on quite well. Ayo.
There's one issue that's been raised by the convener of the Situation Room that we spoke with earlier. He's still with us on this program right now, saying that elections haven't quite begun in some areas. Have elections begun where you are? What's the progress so far?
Okay, so just like I said, there are about 8 polling units here in this center, and election voting commenced at 8:30. Um, just like the resident who I just finished speaking to right now also observed, he said he's been going around. Election has started in so many places, but he said he identified a place around this neighborhood where they are still waiting for voting to start. We're going to touch base with them there. But here, voting has started. I also spoke with some of the officials to ask them questions about how the process has been going on so far. They said people are coming in, they're trickling in at this point. When voting started, it was a very busy line, but right now, and I think they already cleared that. So guys, how is it going so far?
Has been going well. Network has been able to accredit them with the picture. Yes.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. So that I don't obstruct the process there, but what is going on there is that people are voting, and the process is going on smoothly. Ayo.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm pretty sure that, as you have said, we'll be getting feedback from other parts of the state to know exactly what is going on. Thank you very much, Darido, for your reporting this morning. And as you said, we'll expect to hear from our other colleagues from other parts of the state. Well, Mr. Zakaria, you've heard that. It would seem like elections have begun in some parts of the state. What other reports are you getting, Mr. Zakaria?
Well, I think, like I said, it's a mixed bag. In some places, election has started to hold. In some other places, materials are still yet to arrive. In some few cases, even the materials are still to leave the rack, which is the where the materials for various places are being held. So that's the sort of report we are getting.
Okay. Well, we'll also, of course, hope that we'll be able to get some other information from other parts of the city to know exactly what is going on. Now, from what you have heard, Chief, would you say we have learned a thing or two? Have we made progress, or is it just same old?
No, we have not really made progress. Because the reporter in Benin is talking about Benin City. I'm more interested in those outside Benin City. I'm more interested in the riverine areas. There are some places in Edo State where you can only access by boat. Nobody has said anything. Edo South is mixed. Forest, riverine, and developed areas. The north, yes, accessible. Central, accessible. But believe you me, what people see is what they believe. All those people who left their homes as early as 6 a.m. to go and queue are expecting something reasonable to come out. At the end of the day, if you disappoint them, you have caused serious damage to their psyche. And whoever emerges the next governor of Edo State, people will never see him as genuinely elected. So what we have learned is very little. We have cemented those wrong ones. Distribution of election materials should not be a big deal. Let me just ask you. The banks you see today, once it's 8 o'clock, the doors are open. You use your ATM card, you want to withdraw money, you go to the POS, the same system. But it is INEC owned. You hear glitch, you will see spirits, you see all kinds of things as they're moving around in this country. Since 1999, we have been doing 4 years. This is off-cycle election. In other words, there is no pressure of work. Just Edo State. It's not a big state. Population is not much. Yet we're having problems. Delivering for the voters is a problem.
Well, most certainly something, I mean, as you said earlier, there is no perfect election anywhere, but at least credible. That's the word that you used. But the people who will make it credible are both INEC and the political parties. What's your take on the preparedness for this election by the political parties? As we speak, some of them are still having intra-party crisis. That's significant distraction from whatever it is that people are actually supposed to be focusing on. So what's your take on the preparedness, not level of preparedness of INEC, of the parties, but of the people being engaged by the parties in the entire process? What's your take on the role the political parties have played in the build-up to this election?
Let me just quote a man who was a prime minister of, president of Poland. He was invited by Daniel Mosigwe Foundation to give a lecture some years ago. And I remember I asked him one question. You will soon leave office. Why don't you do something to elongate your stay? You are the president. He just smiled and said, when I was sworn in, I knew how long I would stay. From the day I was sworn in, I knew that I would leave office on a certain day, certain time. At no time did I think of extending because we have rules and regulations. We have a constitution, and I'm ready to follow the constitution. So in this country, you're chairman of a political party. You know how long your chairmanship will stay. You will do nothing except plan how to make sure that you continue in power. Yeah, the governor. You now fought the godfather who brought you in, and you become the new godfather when you leave office. In a particular state, in one of the central parts of Nigeria, remember what happened? The governor issued a proclamation. If the governor says do it like this, and the former governor says do it the other way, please obey the former governor. And he signed. He even set up an office next to his own, office of the former governor. And you see that human greed, that is the problem in us. In whatever office we find ourselves in, we try to mess up that office. So Obasanjo said, restructure your mind. And if you are the president, if you are the governor, if you are the chairman of local government, remember you have a short time to make an impact. Like one French philosopher said, I don't know whether I'll pass through this road again. Let me do what I have to do now that I'm in office. And that is how it should be. In primary school, in secondary school, in the university,
in this election,
timetable for everything.
My apologies, Chief. In this election, there are three main political parties. Of course, there are several, but there are three frontline political parties. In fact, there is the complaints by some people that, on the one hand, one of the political parties didn't sign the peace accord. On the other hand, two of the political parties did not show up for a debate. So the leading political parties didn't show up for the debate. And it leaves a number of people who consider those two things very important, wondering if that's going to have any effect or have any impact on the outcome of this election.
Well, it ought to, but remember that bad people always have a plan B. Plan A is a straightforward line. Plan B is always corner. So those other people, they must have had some arrangements to make sure that things go the way they want. They deliberately cause crisis. They never do things in a proper way. So in Edo State today, those who did not sign, I'm sure they have explained why they didn't sign. and they have expectations. Those who signed, they have expectations. Those who refuse to tell people face to face, eyeball to eyeball, this is what we're going to do when we come into office. Those have their plan. And none of those plans actually, except plan A, is in favor of the people. We condemn it any day, any time. We should outgrow evil in government. Everybody has a short time. Let me just give you an example. All those who are governors under Shagari, I think only 2 are left. They're just ordinary people. Those who are governors under Obasanjo, I meet them at the airport. How are they? But when they were governors, it was like force and arms, everything. The good and level playing ground, they refuse to implement when they're in office. We'll always catch up with them. And so it is today in Edo State.
Dr. Yao, quickly, we have to start winding down now. Chief has said that we haven't learned much, but this is an off-cycle election. In 2027, there's going to be a general election. Are you expecting that by then we would have learned something and we would have a better election?
I think we have learned a lot. The point is that we are not using those lessons. The thing we have learned is that perpetually our elections are being made by inability to manage distribution of materials. The lessons we have learned is that there are no political parties contesting elections. They are just individuals. In this Edo election, for instance, the political parties are simply not there. Even as we go around now, many of the political parties, including the 3 that you are saying, they have no agents in some places, which means that they actually don't care about the voters. What they care is about them. I think that a citizen would have to understand that the election is about themselves, not about the political parties, not about the candidates. And I think that is a lesson that we need. We must find a way in which candidates must come to speak to the citizens, engage in debates. We tried for this election to get all the candidates to come to a debate, and they refused. I think that this signing of accord is so simply also the lesson that we have learned out of it is that it doesn't work. You sign an accord, and on the day of elections, your supporters commit violence, and nothing is done about it. The party is not held accountable to what has happened. So when you sign a paper, it's just signing a paper. I think that for me is a lesson. And therefore, that rather than just simply signing ceremonial accord where all the television cameras will be there, I think that we need to have some accountable process in which once you commit to the peaceful election and your supporters commit violence, then you will be held accountable. And that is something that would reduce the amount of impunity with which political parties encourage its own members, encourage its supporters to commit violence on election or to commit infractions on election day and even during the vote coalition and so forth.
Chief, can you just answer that question in one sentence? Is it possible?
To have a credible election 2027.
Or are we on the road to it?
I think we are in the opposite direction.
Oh dear.
That's my impression. Because if we want to be on the road to a credible election 2027, we have to cure the defects we have today.
And you don't think we're doing anything?
No, we are not. We are not. We're actually cementing the evil procedure we used in 2023.
Chief Godi Uwazirike, legal practitioner, who was in our studio with us in Lagos, and Dr. Yunusa Zachary Yao, convener, Nigeria's Civil Society Situation Room, who joined us via Zoom from Benin. He is on ground actually taking note of everything that is going on, and I hope that he will give us a report at the end of it all. Thank you very much.
We respect that. Thank you.
Sunrise will return in just a moment with another interesting conversation. Do stay with us.
What do you do? What do you do? What do you do?
One or three.
What do you do?
Yeah, that is footage from Ego, local government in Edo State, and it's a case or cases of suspected vote buying. You know, earlier when we heard that EFCC was also going to be on ground during these elections, some people wondered, EFCC, nobody's going to try to buy votes openly at a polling booth. Well, I'd like to tell you guys that you were actually wrong. Somebody was actually, taken away for trying to give incentives for votes. So you see that EFCC being there actually served a purpose. Ego, local government in Edo State, going on. Our correspondent just sent us this clip of suspected vote buying. Right. So, back to the studio now. Yellow fever is a serious viral disease transmitted by infected mosquitoes, posing a significant public health threat in Nigeria. Measles is a vaccine-preventable childhood killer disease. Children who are not vaccinated against measles through routine immunization at 9 months are vulnerable to measles complications during measles outbreaks. And then cervical cancer is the second leading cause of death among women. These are the reasons why the Lagos State Ministry of Health, through Lagos State Primary Healthcare Board, is in collaboration with the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, the World Health Organization, and other key stakeholders, is launching a mass integrated vaccination campaign for yellow fever, measles, and human papillomavirus aimed at preventing outbreaks and protecting citizens. To talk to us more about this, I'd like to welcome the Vice Chairman, Medical Guild, Medical Officer of Health, Ifelodun Local Government Development Area, Dr. Japhet Olubugi.
Thank you for having me on this show this morning.
Thank you for coming. And I see that you were making a comment when that footage was going on about people trying to buy votes.
Yeah, you're right.
Now, tell us, We were of the impression that measles, for instance, was something that you didn't have to convince people to go vaccinate their children against. Why this massive campaign? We thought people were all aware that as X number of months, you must take your child for this. At X number of months later, you must also take that child. And we thought that enough campaign had been carried out about those milestone vaccinations.
Yes, thank you very much for having me on the show once again. Like you mentioned, one would have thought that measles or yellow fever or HPV vaccines, for that matter, vaccines that people ordinarily would readily take. But of course, we have children who are missed out of this vaccination exercise that we carry out. Nigeria has a routine immunization schedule for children, and measles is one of them. The measles vaccine is one of them. And at 9 months, one would expect that a child would take the measles vaccine and the yellow fever vaccine. But what happens is that we have a lot of children who miss these vaccinations for circumstances sake, because of vaccine hesitancy, cultural beliefs, maybe because they are in hard-to-reach areas, maybe because they are out of areas where they ought to get the vaccine when the vaccination exercise is going. Also, because of mistrust in government. So we have a lot of missed children, not only in Lagos State, but all over the country. And then Nigeria carried out a mass campaign on measles in 2022. But then again, in Lagos, we had a coverage of 63%. That means that there are so many children, so many babies who ought to have been vaccinated, who were not vaccinated. Not because we didn't want to vaccinate them, for exigency's sake, and all those other factors that I mentioned earlier on. So there are so many missed children. Now, these missed children from 2022 up until now, we have also had a number of outbreaks of measles in the community, not only in Lagos, all over Nigeria. We're just last week, we reported 4 measles cases, suspected measles cases in Ajegunle area of Lagos. And of course, if you start calculating the number of measles cases that we have picked up in the last 1 year all over Nigeria, it's a lot. So there are so many children who ought to have been vaccinated for this disease, who missed the opportunity to get the disease, to get the vaccine. Also, for yellow fever, yellow fever is endemic in Nigeria, being a tropical country. Also, South America is also, in that region where yellow fever is endemic. But for Nigeria, the problem is that we have a lot of mosquitoes. The species that spread the yellow fever virus, it's very common in Nigeria. So we have a lot of people coming down with yellow fever, especially in the northern part of the country. But of course, the NPACDA and the federal government has responded by carrying out a vaccination campaign against yellow fever all over the country, except Lagos and one other state. I'm not quite sure, I think Borno. So we have had the vaccination campaign in many parts of the country, but Lagos is yet to have it. Now, if you combine those two analogies together, you would have a number of people in the community who are supposed to be vaccinated against these killer diseases, but who are walking around. So the risk is high. And that is the reason why this campaign is coming up. Okay. And it's an integrated campaign where our children who missed the opportunity to get vaccinated for measles and yellow fever would have a fresh opportunity to be vaccinated against these diseases. Also, adults who have not been vaccinated against yellow fever will also have the opportunity to get the vaccine. Those who were not able to get vaccinated against the HPV vaccine will have the opportunity to be vaccinated against the human papilloma virus disease.
Okay, let's talk about measles for a bit. It's like we don't understand the the importance of that vaccine. First of all, at what milestones should a child take the measles vaccine?
The Nigerian immunization schedule states that a child should take the first dose of the measles vaccines at 9 months.
9 months.
And there's a follow-up dose, which we call booster dose, at 15 months.
15.
And so that is what we have on the schedule. But what we have is that a lot of mothers bring their babies, they get the first dose, they don't get this booster dose. A lot of mothers don't even bring their babies to take the first dose at all. You see, on our immunization schedule, we start at 0 age, at the first day of life, where they take the BCG, hepatitis B, and what have you. And most of those vaccinations terminate at 6 months, but it does not terminate at 6 months. So most of them erroneously think that once they've collected the vaccines at 6 months, they're done. But they're not done, because at 9 months, they ought to take the measles and the yellow fever vaccine.
Okay.
But we have a lot of babies missing out on this.
What is the implication of not taking the booster?
Fantastic. Now, first of all, let's even talk about the implication of not taking the measles vaccine. The measles is one of the 6 childhood killer diseases, especially in Nigeria. And we have a lot of children coming down with it. There's no cure for it. Even yellow fever, there's no cure for it. But there is a vaccine for it. So when a child takes the vaccine, they are protected. Now, when they take the booster dose, they are protected for life. So that is the essence of taking the vaccine. There is no cure for this disease. When a child comes down with the disease, what we do is give them supportive treatment until their immunity is able to combat the disease and they get out of the disease. But the vaccine protects the child.
So when a child contracts measles, there's no cure?
There's no cure. And it's a highly transmissible disease.
So what happens to that child?
The child comes down with the symptoms of measles.
Has those rashes.
Yeah, those rashes, very nasty
and then
rashes.
Recovers.
Very nasty fever, yes, and then recovers.
Miraculously.
Well, of course, what happens is that when you have a disease, the body recognizes that there's a problem and start fighting it. Okay. Now, those who have a strong immunity will be able to fight it. Those who do not have may not be able to be so lucky. And of course, sometimes malnutrition, other diseases like HIV, some drugs can lower the immunity. And nowadays, when we have, some challenges in the country, a lot of people are not feeding well. A lot of babies are not feeding well. A lot of children are not feeding well. So they need the support of these vaccines to be able to boost their immunity.
Before I let Ayo ask his question, we have heard that children who come down with measles also have other things that follow even when they have recovered, like deafness. I've heard about deafness.
Yeah, it's one of the complications of me coming down with measles. Blindness also. A child can go blind after coming down with measles. So many other things can follow. But of course, who wants to see their child suffer? You need to see a child who has measles. It's a lot of suffering. The fever is so high, and the nasty rashes that you mentioned, not to talk of the runny nose and the cough and all that. So what we give is antibiotics, analgesics, a lot of fluid to support the child, to make the child comfortable. But of course, it's a lot of stress on the mother, a lot of stress on the hospital, a lot of stress for the child, a lot of stress on the economy of the family.
Okay. Ayo.
Dr. Lubogi, I know that one of the things that you would want to achieve is herd immunity, but before we get there, can you just tell us what mechanisms are in place for accessibility? Because vaccination sites would make it more accessible to the citizens, particularly in hard-to-reach areas of Lagos.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. It's a very wonderful question. The program is planned in such a way that we have what we call the fixed posts, which are the health facilities. We're talking about the primary healthcare facilities, the secondary, and the private hospitals. Apart from that, there's what we call the temporary fixed post, which may be in form of a church, which may be in form of a school or a community leader's compound, like a ballet or traditional leader compound. So that is the temporary fixed post. And then we also have teams who are going to go house to house, schools, to churches, to market, to all those public places where they can find all the children that they can find. So these are the strategies in place. And anybody who also prefers to walk into a private hospital, our teams are going to be there. Anybody who prefers to walk into a hospital, a health facility, our teams are also going to be there. So these will help everyone have access to this vaccination. Also, plans are in motion to send teams across water to different places where they are hard to reach, to difficult terrains. There are plans in motion to send teams to these places.
How about misinformation and vaccine hesitancy? Because, I mean, of course, you know that, those are crucial issues, especially coming at a time when the people are concerned about their safety and even the efficacy of the vaccines.
Let me start from the efficacy of the vaccine. The vaccine we are rolling out, and any vaccine that comes from the government of Nigeria, is efficacious because there are solid plans for storage, for administration. These vaccines are stored safely in cold chain equipment which are powered by solar. It's not reliable on the normal mainstream power, but on solar. So these equipments run 24/7 without fail, and they're being monitored every day. There are tallies, there are items that are being monitored, that are being used to monitor the safety of these vaccines and the storage capacity. So the misinformation, one of the things we're trying to achieve right now, as we speak, is to roll out information, credible information, reliable information to the citizenry so that they can have first-hand information from commissioned officers from maybe the NPACDA, from the WHO, from the Lagos State Primary Care Board, or even from the medical associations themselves. So there is a body, a committee of officers dedicated to giving out information, just like we have different pillars of other officers concerned with logistics, concerned with transportation, concerned with distribution of vaccines, for administration of vaccines. So we also have a pillar that is in charge of information dissemination, risk mobilization, and risk communication. So the misinformation, we don't envisage that it will be a problem. Also, people also have hesitancy, and that's one of the reasons why we are on air. We are going to be doing a lot of advocacy with all the stakeholders, including community leaders, traditional leaders. This is already ongoing. We're also sending letters to schools, to hospitals, to private facilities, to churches, to mosques. We are meeting all these important stakeholders in the community so that we can reach out to the community members and dissuade their fears on this vaccination campaign and subsequent exercises that we may carry out in the country. So vaccine hesitancy, we are aware, and we are doing a lot to dissuade and convince people otherwise.
Well, interestingly, Dr. Olubogi, I mean, you may want to also quickly confirm this, that we experienced a mass measles vaccination campaign in 2022. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Now, having done it then, one will be wondering why there is now a new cohort of unvaccinated children. I mean, just as you said, it was just about 2 years ago. And what strategies do we have to ensure these children are reached during this campaign?
Okay, so first of all, I think the most important thing is adequate information dissemination, creation of awareness, sensitization, which we have begun now. there's going to be a lot of airing of this kind of session that we are having now, not only by us, also by the associations, the APHPN, Association of Public Health Physicians, Medical Guild, NMA, M1, all of them are going to be involved, and we're going to be going on air a lot, whether radio or TV, using the traditional media, social media to convey information to members of the community. Now, what happened in 2022 is that we missed a lot of children inadvertently because the coverage for Lagos State then was 63%, and of course the target was 90 to 95, and if we had a target of 90 to 95, and at the end of the day we recorded 63%, you will agree with me that we have missed a lot of children, at least 37% downwards of children that we have missed. So the idea is that these children that were missed in 2022 will have a fresh opportunity to get a catch-up vaccination in this exercise.
Well, this leads me to the question of herd immunity. So help us understand how the idea of herd immunity works in the context of yellow fever and measles in particular.
So the idea of herd immunity is such that if you have 10 people in a room and there's an outbreak of disease, if you can get to vaccinate about 8 of them or 9 of them, what will happen is that there will be nobody to spread the disease to the last set of people. Let's say you vaccinated 8 people now in the room of 10, and what will happen is that those 8 people will not be able to spread the disease to the remaining 2 people. That is simply what we mean by herd immunity. So we are trying to vaccinate a sizable number of community members. For measles and yellow fever, we're talking about 85 to 90% coverage. So when we can vaccinate such high number of children, what will happen is that you would hardly have any child that can spread the infection to another set of children.
All right, now let me quickly ask you about HPV, because we don't seem to have talked much about that in this conversation. This HPV vaccination, we know, it's also public knowledge that cervical cancer is about the second leading cause of death among women. So how does Lagos, particularly maybe the Ministry of Health, plan to overcome the barriers related to HPV vaccine uptake?
Now, that's a very valid question because the last time we had the HPV vaccination, there was a lot of hesitancy, a lot of barriers that came up to the HPV vaccination. And a lot of people have come out, research experts, biologists, so many interests to talk about the HPV vaccination. And what we realized is that we need to create more awareness. We need to talk more about it. We need to be able to convince people so that they would see the need for the vaccination. One of the important takeaway points from that campaign was the fact that a lot of people felt that, okay, you are vaccinating children between 9 and 14 against human papilloma virus, and you are saying that you do not expect, you are trying to protect them from, because you think that these children are those who are in the age group of those who are already having sexual intercourse, that it should promote children, that it does not happen. Because you are trying to catch them young. You're trying to catch them before they start having exposure. Yes, before they start having the exposure. So we know that once we can give them the vaccine at that age, we are protecting them against the HPV.
You say in your message that yellow fever is preventable. How is that?
It's preventable by giving the vaccine. Yellow fever is being spread by mosquitoes. And then if you take Lagos, for example, which is yet to, carry out the mass vaccination campaign against yellow fever. If somebody from the north comes to Lagos who is already infected and the mosquito bites the person, the mosquito can spread the infection to other people in Lagos. And we have a problem on our hands.
All these vaccinations are, of course, free.
Free, of course, free.
And you have told us earlier that they are safe.
They are safe and they are available.
Okay, so all those who are suspicious of vaccinations, these vaccinations are safe and they are free and they will save lives.
Absolutely.
It's not that they might, they will
absolutely
save lives. So Lagos State is saying, go there, take your vaccine, whether it is for measles, for yellow fever, or for HPV.
There's also the oral polio vaccination.
Oral polio. So vaccinations going on. And the campaign is on. Dr. Japheth Oluboyi, Vice Chairman, Medical Guild, and Medical Officer of Health, Ifelodun, LCDA. Thank you very much for coming to enlighten us this morning. We wish you all the best in your campaign. And you say the last time you achieved a 63% rate of success. We hope that you will achieve.
We are hoping to achieve 95% this time.
We hope that you will achieve 90 this time.
With the support of everyone, community members, community leaders, the local governments, everyone, the medical associations,
Thank you very much.
The imams, the pastors, we will achieve it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. We're going to come back if you will permit us.
We're always here for you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So Sunrise will return in just a moment with another interesting conversation. Do stay with us. Isn't it amazing that some people are still trying to buy votes? I mean,
I just hope that guy was arrested indeed, and he was not let go, just pushed out of the compound. I hope he was arrested because, as we often say, we ought to follow the money. Where did the money come from? And he doesn't just want to buy 10 people, he wants to buy as many people as he can. We have to find out which political party is he representing, which politician is he representing.
But
find out.
I would have thought that no right-thinking person would actually go and try to buy votes at the polling unit. You do that before the people go to the polls.
Alero, what they call right thinking is subjective. To him, he's right thinking about winning the election and the benefits that come out of it.
So you go where there's policeman, there's soldier, there's EFCC, and you try to give somebody money there? I mean, you are
when you want to buy tomatoes, do you go to the cement factory?
Well, that was brazen as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, let's leave Benin alone for now, because we're going to go back to Benin shortly. So let's talk about other things for now. Oh my God, those are live pictures from Benin, where it is now a local government area, where that chap was just taken away by EFCC. It's raining heavily, and this is going to deter people from voting.
Well, as you can see, people are outside.
Waiting.
So definitely people want to vote.
Yeah.
People will vote. You know, the resilience of the Nigerian, please don't undermine it. It is there. Just as you said, let's keep this conversation back. Junior achievements, Nigeria's venture management is what we would like to talk about now. Well, as you can see, the rain is pouring. It's not just drizzling. It's pouring right there in Benin City. And I don't know how many people will be affected by this. Maybe by the time we're able to get Sheo or
Dari.
I understand there's a live correspondent Dare. Okay, Dare, do you want to tell us anything right now? How significantly is this affecting anything?
See me, or if you can hear me right now.
I
I'm
can
using
hear
an
you, I
umbrella.
can
I'm
see you.
here. Yes, yes. So still at the location where I reported from earlier, and I want the the camera to capture what is going on at the moment. You can see that is where I reported polling units, about 8 polling units, but 7 polling units, 10, 9, 8, 7 to 3. And at the moment, what you can see is that voters, INEC officials, security operatives are standing, taking shelter under the building. Of course, they would have to wait maybe for the rain to subside a bit before they continue the process. But earlier, before the rain started, before this very heavy downpour, a situation happened earlier with the security operators, specifically now, EFCC, coming here, they picked 3 people. I don't know if you're rolling that visual, if you have it. It was a bit chaotic because some of those people arrested were suspected to be vote buyers, and they said they were caught with some cash. Uh, what I think the EFCC did in this case was outside they had their operatives with their vest, with a very heavy presence outside the security operative with armed men. But inside this particular premises, they had some of the operatives in mufti, and they were able to identify some of the vote buyers. But according to the residents who were quite agitated when the suspects were being taken away, they said there was no evidence that those people were vote buyers, that they were being intimidated, and they were kicking against the arrest of those people.
Hmm. Well, as you rightly noted, I just hope that he is indeed been arrested and that they would actually follow the entire process to the end. But how do you see this rain affecting the process? I can see that people are staying there, I mean, right behind you right there, to continue the process. Is voting still ongoing, or are we waiting for the rain to abate?
Let me start by saying civil society organizations, especially Impact, in their data that they released before this election, they projected or predicted that it was going to be this rain and there was going to be that heavy downpour, which may affect the voting process across the state. And of course, the days here and the rain is quite heavy. So what is going on right now is that before the rain started, voters were just trickling in, wasn't quite heavy. I mean, by heavy, I mean the traffic, the people coming in to vote at that point wasn't quite heavy. But again, what you're seeing right now is that there can't be any queue. Officials are also just sitting. It may just be that they don't have more voters coming in, or can't just continue the process. From the analysis before now, if this rain continues this way, especially at this location I am, I think they would have to wait for it to subside a bit, and when it subsides, they can continue. Voting is actually expected to close by 2:30. They can have that grace. I think there's a justified reason if they push it a little bit further. But there are some locations that may not have this particular advantage. Edo State is one of the states that you know that flooding is maybe part of the problems here. And if you are in a local government or you are in a location where flooding is affecting them, that means voting would have to be suspended until they're able to get to a dry location or wait for the rain to recede or the rainwaters to recede. But from what we are gathering here at this point, not many of the voters you're seeing are still waiting to vote. Some of them have voted, are just waiting behind just for the counting to start, which is going to be at 2:30.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much, Dari. As you said earlier, as you promised earlier, we hope we'll be able to talk to our other colleagues on that matter. Thank you so much for all that you are doing, giving us the real issues on the ground right there in Edo State.
Right.
Well, yes, go ahead, Alero.
Let's talk about Junior Achievement Nigeria's Venture Manager Program. Is it Venture Management?
Venture in Management.
Venture in Management. Okay. Junior Achievement Nigeria, JAN, is a member of Junior Achievement Worldwide, and it delivers experiential hands-on programs on 4 core pillars of financial literacy, work readiness, entrepreneurship, and digital literacy. And it does this to young people between the ages of 5 and 35. 5?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. I have a team here from Junior Achievement Nigeria, led by the marketing manager, Tobiloba Olaoshun.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am. It's a pleasure to be here.
And next to her is Ugonna Achebe, who's a past VIMP participant and is a current JAN Executive Director.
Thank you very much.
Morning.
Good morning.
And then we have a VIMP 2024 participant, Imo Asian.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Thank you.
You look proud enough of what you have achieved at VIMP.
Of course, thank you.
Now, Toby, tell us, who is the target audience of this, and what has been the impact of the program?
Okay, Venture in Management program is majorly for young graduate, fresh graduates, and NYSC corpers, youth corpers that have just finished NYSC or currently still going on with their NYSC program or about to round up, and then fresh graduates that are still barely out of school, barely with few experiences here and there, maybe internship and all of those things, basically just coming into Venture in Management program to experience what it is like to go through a mini MBA program. So Venture in Management program is a mini MBA program that is in partnership with Lagos Business School, where these fellows come into the program to experience the learnings around business leadership and management, and basically see how they can analyze live experiences of what is going on with organizations that are thriving and learning lessons from how business and leadership is explored in the practical life situations.
Let us take him, for instance.
Right.
Talk us through what he was like before he joined the program and what he became after the program.
Right. Okay. That would be interesting to say, considering the fact that he is here with me. I definitely, so I would also piggyback to the experiences with the current past alumni of VIMP. Barely experienced what business life is about, right? They've probably, maybe a few of them are currently even working, I've just started working in like a corporate organization and all of that, but most of them are not even near the leadership experiences just yet. So this is an avenue to experience life in life, a real situation where business insights is being given to them live from thought leaders, experienced professionals at Lagos Business School, and they interface with these learnings. And of course, we've had great impact stories from that experience. Currently, our current Honorable Minister of Communication and Innovation, Bosun Tijani, is a past, participant of VIMP. Yes, we blow our horns. He's a past alumnus of VIMP, and we have a couple of other notable human beings that have gone through VIMP and have gone ahead to do different things. The current executive director of Faith Foundation is also an alumnus of VIMP, right? So we have all these names to accredit, people we've trained.
Name dropping.
People we've trained and have gone through the experiences, gone through those business lessons, and have evolved to lead notable businesses.
Okay. That's what you have to tell us.
Yes.
Now let us hear from somebody who has actually been through it.
Exactly.
Okay. I participated in VIMP in 2017, and I was rough on the edges. Initially, I was a volunteer at Junior Achievement Nigeria, and after participating in VIMP, I think it was an eye-opener. First of all, I was doing a lot of side businesses, but I didn't really understand
The program evolved. Is it the same thing that was done when you took part that is still being done now? Or have you influenced a change in the program in any way that is more profitable to the participants?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. The program has evolved in about 2 or 3 ways. One of which is initially the program was only administered to 50 participants. But in terms of access, in terms of reach, we had to increase that number to also accommodate virtual participants, right? So right now we accommodate 100 participants, 50 physically, 50 virtually. And our aim is to ensure that we increase it, by even 100%. So we try to get 200 people. But everything boils down to funding. And so this is where we are also reaching out to various organizations. And we also want to give a shout out to one of our major sponsors this year, GB Foods. Incidentally, the general manager of GB Foods was also a VIMP participant in 2003.
Right.
So we're not just name dropping. We're actually just showing you the impact we've had over the past 25 years.
But come on, you shouldn't have any problem with funding at all. Because if we take from what she said earlier, most of those who took part in this thing are now big guns in business.
Right.
So go to them. Or maybe they should come to you and offer.
Oh, definitely. We're exploring all the options. We're exploring all the options. We've gotten a lot of people reach out to us telling us they want to fund the program, but we all have to ensure that it's all aligned with everything we want to do.
When is the next program?
The next one, so it's annually, and so the next one is next year. And we will just want to let everybody know, everyone should have access to these things. I can tell you for a fact, we had over 1,000 people show interest,
wanting to take part,
yes. But we have limited access to being able to accommodate everyone, because for the physical participants, we lodge them, feed them, and they have nothing to spend on. So we are accommodating you fully, giving you all you need, ensuring that you have optimal attention to be able to focus on the training. And they also have discussions, group conversations, where they make presentations from the learnings through this program. So, you want to look out for it next year. Parents should endeavor to encourage their young people, because we are in a business-driven world right now.
Right,
and so
indeed.
we all need the information and the knowledge required to be able to function optimally in our corporate organizations.
I wouldn't want to be part of the body that would have to shortlist 100 people out of 1,000.
Right.
And with all this publicity that's going on now, you're likely to have more than 5,000 next year.
Yes, we look forward to it. And we really also want to appreciate Verake Africa that has always been helpful in shortlisting. We know it's a lot of work, but they have always been supportive in ensuring that we have the best hands. It was difficult this year, particularly because we had the minimum participants or applicants that we had with the percentage was about 97%. We didn't have anyone below 97%. So it was really a tasking one to be able to select. So, we're looking for the best of the best.
Indeed.
And because that's what we want to portray about Nigeria, we want to show that we have the good hands and we have the best fit for the work we need to do.
Indeed.
Not just Verake partners,
Yes.
even our alumni as well.
Yeah.
So our alumni are also involved in the interview process, because they understand what is needed for the program.
What you're looking for.
Right.
Thank you very much. Tobiloba Olaosho, Marketing Manager, Junior Achievement Nigeria, and she came along with the Executive Director and a past VIMP participant, Ugonna Achebe, and he just graduated, in quotes, from the VIMP 2024 program, Imo Essien.
Thank you, Mom.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Mom.
Now that you've been to Lagos Business School and you're holding your nose in the air.
Something to brag about.
Thank you very much for coming
Thank
to
you
enlighten
very
us
much.
on Junior Achievement Venture Management Program.
Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you for having us.
Sunrise will return in just a moment, and I will have Ayo doing all the work.
Well, Alero, you know, well, you're a grandma now, so you may not really understand some of the challenges that some people are going through in terms of children resuming school. But you know, I've had the privilege of speaking with some family life practitioners. And one of the things that they often talk about is the importance, particularly when it comes to education, is the importance of parent-teacher partnership. And so one wonders what some of those challenges are. Well, what exactly are we talking about here? We'll hear from our guests, but the essence of a parent-teacher partnership should be grounded in the idea that both of them, both parents and teachers, have a significant role to play in the lives of their children. What those roles are and how those roles are played out, those are some of the things we want to talk about this morning. So, who is our guest, Alero?
Maybe Hajia Amina Yunus Ali, who's a family therapist. She's a friend of the house.
Yeah.
She's been here on several occasions talking about children. It's always about children.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, and
You're
I'm glad to be here.
You don't blame her, do you? You know, but let me ask you, my apologies, Alero, I know you want to, but let me ask you, madam.
Yes, sir.
When we talk about parent-teacher partnership, give us a real-life scenario what a functional parent-teacher partnership should look like.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. That part of the functional parent-teacher partnerships, because a lot of times let me define it first. A functional one would look like where parents can freely communicate about the goals, values, expectations of their child's development effectively with the teachers, who apparently also spend a significant amount of time with the parents and with the children more often than not than the children spend with their parents. So it is a cohesive, integrated connection where both parents and teachers are on board as to what most suits that child and how it can empower that child, enhance the child's unique talents, and then help them develop more effectively and more holistically, not just cognitively, not just academically, but in a more holistic sense. So that's what a functional parent-teacher partnership would look like.
And I think that is very, very important when you said holistic.
Yes.
Now, the reason I think it is important is because most of the time when parents look at the results of their children's performance in school, they're looking at how many grades did she pass maths, English, and the other important ones, particularly because they have in mind that this child is going to be a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer, so they are looking at those subjects.
Absolutely.
So please speak a little further, or explain a little further when you talk about holistic development. Okay. How is that important, and how do parents decrypt that? What should they be looking out for? What kind of conversations should they have with the teachers? What kind of conversation should happen between parents and teachers, particularly in the area of holistic development of the child?
Okay. So let me break it down this way. On an average, a typical adolescent will spend 9 hours in school each day. Now, within that 9 hours, they are either doing one academic work or the other, maths, English, sciences, arts, literature, whatever. And then they are most likely also doing sports, right? But they are also being exposed to peer-to-peer relationships, peer to authority relationships. They are also undergoing now in most schools, like I think I've been opportune to see, we are also having certain vocational aptitude lessons within that. But on a holistic exposure or a well-balanced holistic exposure for the child would also mean we'll look at the cognitive, behavioral, social interactions of that child, as well as the emotional capabilities of that child. What we do find is that the child or the teachers will pay attention to the cognitive part, which is what deals with the academia and their, they would also, and the grades, right? They would also pay attention to the social. But now the social is talking about how well they're performing in sports or how well they are a team player and things like that. The other side of it, the behavioral and the emotional, they expect the parents to, be on top of that, right? And it's okay if you expect the parents to also be at the forefront of this. But like I mentioned, 9 times 5 days a week is like 36 hours. And even some of the students, they have weekend classes. They go to, they're either having an extracurricular activity or they're preparing for one exam or the other and things like that. And then you look at the number of hours the parents have left to spend with the child, and it's not fair to expect that parents would be able to do all those things. Now, the functional partnership would come in if the parent also know who their child is. But what we find is that parents expect the teachers to fix everything. From the moment they are in the KG or baby class, we expect the teachers to do everything, feed them, bathe them, teach them how to say please, yes, thank you. Because we are also having this hustle culture that demands more from parents and expects that the school should be the altar parent in this case. Now, the dysfunction that is not showing up in this non-holistic sense is that teachers are overwhelmed. They are overwhelmed with having to take care of the cognitive and the social, and they are missing out on what they need because, truth be told, not all of them even know what it takes to pay attention to the behavioral needs, the emotional needs of a typical child, not to mention the atypical child. So we are not having this over flooding of the diseases that I call them. I call them the diseases, ADHD, dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, and teachers are like, how do we deal with this? And then still be effective in helping them meet their cognitive targets and the social targets, not to mention the emotional challenges that the children are now having.
I find it interesting that you are already going into the details of the cognitive conversation, and how it affects the behavioral. Many times, even now, some parents and teachers looking at us and watching this program and listening may or may not even find themselves on the wrong side of this conversation. Many times when parents look at the grades, there is the unfortunate expectation, I don't know what better word to use, that they usually sometimes compare the grades of their child with that of another child as some kind of measure that that child is doing good in school. In school, forgetting that behavioral development is a constraint or an embellishment of cognitive performance in school. Help us understand that balance and why parents need to pay attention to the holistic development of the child and not just measure the development of that child on the grades.
I think for me, it's recognizing that not all the children in the class can be first. And life is competitive. I heard teachers say this a lot, that life is competitive, so we have to push them, we have to make it competitive, we have to get the best of the best of the best, I mean, we listened to Junior Achievement Nigeria a short while ago, and we're talking about 100 out of thousands of selection. It is a natural phenomenon that there will be competition. For parents, it is understanding what your child's strengths are. Your child's strength may not immediately be academics, but they can thrive in the social connection. And that's one thing I do. So I remember a time when when my daughter just started out school, and her teacher was pretty young. I'm pretty sure she didn't have a child of her own then. And I know who my child is a pretty social learner. Prior to having taken her to school, I thought that I was going to homeschool this child. But knowing the kind of person she is, I know she can only thrive in a social space. Now, social space does not necessarily mean that this child, or any child for that matter, would be able to immediately grasp concepts and context of academics. However, they can and they will thrive in helping to network other students in the classroom. And those are the things that ideally a parent should be able to know. But this would only be obvious if the parent is paying attention. On the flip side is also recognizing that even in the classroom, the teachers have to understand that as much as they are encouraging competition, the competitions have to be healthy. And I think we need to begin, the balance would be in understanding that there is no blame or shaming, or it's the parent's fault that they are not doing this, or it is the teacher's fault that they are not paying attention, or they are not helping the child well enough. We need to begin to have conversations about what can we, emphasis on the we, what can we do to help this child thrive in all the facets, but excel in that unique strength that they do have, be it sports, be it theater, be it arts, be it academics, be it sciences, whatever it is that the child's unique strength is, how can we enhance that, but also help them pay attention to other things and to have conversations. So when you go to your child's, opening day, for instance, what conversations do we have with teachers? How come my son is scoring 5/10 in sciences, but scoring 10/10 in arts? Because again, you already have this preconceived idea of who your child is. The grade is only showing you a part. I'd rather have conversations around how does my child play in the classroom? How does the teamwork work for her in the classroom? How can I help her to do more?
Relate with other children.
Relate with other children. What is she struggling with? Yeah. It's not just about the grades. It's also about knowing how I can, help you to make your job easier as a teacher.
Ajia, I'll have you know that when we were in school, there was nothing like Parents-Teachers Association. There was nothing like open day. Our parents hardly had any connection with our teachers, but we got by somehow.
I agree with you.
So what is the big deal about
but then
this
your parents
partnership?
didn't have just to take care of you alone. If they had to go to work, they had someone close they can trust you with, who would also provide and what the school is not providing, an all-present parenting presence. And that is what every child needs. An opportunity to be safe, an opportunity to be seen, an opportunity to be suited, an opportunity to feel secure. Now, the first three would dictate the third. So when we talk about how a child feels or how a child develops to the optimal level, regardless of how their academics looks like, we are talking about how well adjusted that child is. Yeah. Because we also know that even companies, corporate organizations these days, they'll ask you for emotional intelligence abilities. And the only place that you can learn this is through interactions. Now, who does the child interact with the most? And who is the secondary authority in a child's life? So it is often the parents, the teacher, the clergy, if you are spiritual, and then the community. Well, we begin to also notice that the community is dropping off. So in your days, you had a community. It takes a village. My very close friend recently just gave birth, and she was talking about, there's no village anywhere because it's just me having to do with a newborn and then two other children, and it can be tough. It is draining for parents. But if that parent-teachers association can play that effective role of becoming the village, and we stop blaming and shaming each other and assuming that we are constantly so if a child behaves badly, I don't believe there's any bad child, right? Now, if a child behaves badly or misbehaves in school, what you would most likely hear in the corridor room, in the corridors or school corridors is, oh, maybe her parents didn't teach her well. But if the child felt safe in school and misbehaves, the teacher can stand up and say, you know what, something is going on here. I believe you can do better than what you're doing right now. How can I help? And that child begins to feel two of the seen and soothed, and then she begins to feel safe. And that begins to also affect how that child relates at home. But if a child comes back home quiet, no problem, and the parent is always saying, she's not talking, or he's not talking, I don't even know how to reach her, and goes to the school, and the child is all social and happy and thriving, the parent can take a cue and say, okay, so something is going on at home. That I need to pay attention to, that is making this child quiet and reticent, and I need to begin to foster a healthier lifestyle. But you wouldn't know if you don't go to the school to go and check what other environment is this child thriving in that I'm not paying attention to, or what other environment is influencing this child. And these are the things, these are the conversations that we need to have as a community, so that we are constantly in that space of knowing that no matter what is going on with our children, the parents have the overall authority, but they can rely on partners. Partners being the child's teachers, the school itself, because it's not just the teacher. I've seen cases where even teachers are good at trying to help the child, but you find the director or the school environment more toxic than not. And then the child, the teachers are handicapped by the expectations. Oh, they have to meet a particular grade level for the state to approve them, or for the state to ratify their existence. And this goes on and on and on. So it goes back to being a village.
You mentioned something earlier about you said it in passing, homeschooling.
Yeah.
But I caught on to it, and I was going to ask you, I think more and more children are homeschooled now.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what the reason is, but what would be the benefits if you want your child to thrive and to have interactions with other children, interactions with teachers, interactions with other people apart from parents at home? What would be the benefits?
There are benefits to it, really. And so I would often advise that, don't put a child in homeschool if you haven't tested the child in a social learning space first, to know how the child can cope. But there are significant things to also identify with a child, because not all children are born the same. So I mentioned earlier that one of the reasons that I wanted to homeschool was I didn't like the fact that it's the same curriculum, the same expectations, the same bar that different children with different personalities have to cross every now and then, right? But noticing from the get-go, so my daughter wasn't one that, I took the first day of school, most children would cry. My daughter said, she was 3 years old, she said, bye-bye, mommy, I'll see you later.
Well, what happened on day 2? What happened?
Day 2 was the same thing.
Oh, because many of them say bye-bye, mommy, because they've seen
day 2 was
people
the same
their height.
I had zero problem with leaving her in school. I was the one frightened at home. Now, I've seen her cousins, right, when they were starting school, and it was also like, when are you coming to pick me? I'm tired of this place. I want you to go home, right? And you would look at how different that is. But you would also expect the same children to mix and to be the same way all the time. There are children who are good in academics, but they need that one-on-one connection to say, I see you. I know you're struggling with this. What do you need? There are children who already have exposure to anxiety, perhaps through birth deficiencies or difficult pregnancies that their parents had. So they already have a congenital anxiety or predisposed to depression right from birth. And then you put them in this big room with other children playing and shouting, and you're expecting them to thrive. These are the children that are often left behind or labeled. And they would have done well if all they had was just one person looking at them and saying, I see this. I know you can do this. I believe in you. I know that. But a typical teacher has 15 students to take care of.
Yeah.
What time does he or she have to do that
In fact,
to every
15
child.
is a small number.
I
Some
know, right?
classes are 35.
Exactly. And I'm even thinking about it in terms of private schools. Public schools is a way different.
Yeah.
So what time does that, before the teacher takes care of the lesson plans for the next day, ensures that they are meeting up to the quota that the federal government has given them? It's a whole lot. But that is what we're saying. And I think that's where the awareness of parents need to come in. Like parenting 101 class, know who your child is. No child is born the same. They may all come from you, but know who your child is. Know their personality, know what their love language is speaking about, know what they are inclined to. So, and you can see this in how the play. You can see this in social interactions. Homeschool facilitators now, I do know that they also organize peer social learning. So it is limited interaction, but it also fosters the social learning concerns that people who are in the general school or in the typical school also have to go through. But the needs are different, and it is all about knowing what is best for the child. So no child is left behind.
Is there any way that technology can help in this relationship?
Yeah, technology does. Technology provides information. It provides campaigns and awareness and advocacy for the child. But it's also about recognizing that not all children are going to be caught up in the frenzy of the digital era. Some of the students still need to play in the sand. They need to feel water. They need to get messy.
Which many of them don't get these days.
Exactly. But then because we are still driven towards, we want our children to be technologically advanced, we are missing out on that. The holistic part, like I mentioned earlier, also has to do with the need to feel. And you can only feel texture. You can't, you could type all you want, but you can texturize sand and water and clay dough, and all those things.
My children always used to ask me in those days, you people didn't have mobile phones, you didn't have computers. So how did you all play? I said, you'd be surprised.
Oh,
we played.
And we had fun, right?
We played with sand.
And that's what fosters friendship, isn't it?
Doing 10-10.
Yes.
And listening to Tales by Moonlight.
Absolutely. And those were things that also increased our intuition and our inquisitivity and encourages us to want to know more and to do more. So technology is good, but it is the balance. Always keen into what is important for the child and what makes the child even more interesting.
Interesting. Every time we talk about children, we get fresh insights. I remember the 14-year-old, I'm going through a lot.
Oh, yeah.
In all of this conversation that you have had with Madam, one of the things that continues to play on my head is, at the end of it all, the parent is more central than the parent is aware of. The result of whatever the child becomes is not just subject to what the child produces, but what the child inputs into the child. That's what I'm taking away from what you're saying, Madam. That the parent is more central in the education of their child
than they think.
School.
Yeah.
And that partnership has to happen. If that partnership will happen, parents are very important.
Have to be interested, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you very much for coming, Hajia Amina Yunus Ali, a family therapist and coach.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for always answering every time we call.
It's always a pleasure. Thank
you very much. Bye. And thank you for being with us thus far. We have reached the home stretch. See you in just a moment.
Well, we want to I mean, you'll be wondering who is our guest of the two of them. Well, you will find out shortly. But just to begin by saying that our guest is a UK-based gospel music minister. So you know one of them is home-based, so to speak, how that is going to happen. Please, let's welcome our guest this morning, Dunamis Olufunke, who is our guest this morning. Okay, you see, she's in Lagos.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's exciting to see you. First of all, let me begin. First of all, you chose storytelling in your lyrics, in your songwriting.
Yeah.
How is that? Where did that come from?
I mean, how else do I want to express my message if I'm not telling it as it is? And it can only come in stories, sequence of events, your experience, and what you've been doing, you know. So I find it easy. And then folk song has been, it's been something I really love. Let me say, it's a genre that I easily fit in when I tell my stories in songs. So it's just the easiest way for me to express myself.
I can imagine you are one of those people who grew up listening to folk music a lot.
Yes.
What were your favorite genres? Please don't tell me Sakara.
No. If I want to start from way back when I was young, it used to be Abib Karim. You know that one that did Jesu Shoun Long Bani. Elédùmarè Baba Shoun Long Bani. Mo dúpẹ́ o Jésù ó gbà mí tilé tọmọ. Jésù ó Shoun Long Bani. You know, and Akin Adébáyọ̀, Ìmọ́lẹ̀ Ayọ̀. Those were the ones I knew way back. Ìrẹ́ ni mo ní Ọlọ́run ẹlẹ́dàá mi o. Bàbá mi mọ̀ dá mi lóhùn lásìkò tí ó yẹ mí. You know? So with that one, and then he went on to Tope Alabi, you know, Shola Alison, and Kent Edunjobi also fits in. That's what he does. So it makes it easy for me to collaborate with him. If that answers your question.
Did you come to the studio with a natural vocoder machine? Because it would seem as you were singing the way you sang with a microphone inside the studio. Did you come? Anyway, let me not ask you that question.
How
are you able to balance? Of course, it is a compliment.
Thank you.
How do you balance music and your role as a wife and a mother?
Wow.
But before you answer that one, how did you get into music, knowing the challenges that are in the industry, and why music?
Well, I started in 2020, you know, shortly after COVID. You know, it was a very quiet time. That was a time to reflect, and you fear God the more during that time. So that was when I started, not too long ago. And I did not start music because there is an industry or there's a competition out there. I just started because I knew God had placed something inside of me that must come out. I have to empty it. I've always been singing in choir in my church, New Covenant Church, Woolwich. I've been there for almost 20 years now. And, you know, I just felt I have to do more outside of church. And I knew God had deposited something inside, which has to come out to the world. So
what were you doing before that?
I was working as a youth worker in the UK, you know, and going to church.
Youth worker in church?
No. Generally, you know, what I did as a career over there is in the health sector, you know, where you look after young people and follow them to achieve their ambition. So you're more like a key worker and a youth worker when you in that role.
And you stopped that during COVID?
Oh, yes. I stopped that because I came to Nigeria. Let's come and be with my husband, you know, so I stopped working right then. And I've actually not been back to work since then, so...
You've been singing since
then?
then?
Yeah, I've been singing. It's been the ministry. Praises to God. So, back to what Uncle Ayo was saying, music is not, for me, it's not an industry. It's not a competition. I'm just putting out what God has deposited in me. I can't see any industry. I can't see it. I just see me achieving purposes and fulfilling visions.
You're definitely in for a ride.
Thank God.
And if you're making money on the side, it's fine.
Yes, of course.
Absolutely. I mean, I totally agree with you on that, Alero. You know, but I'm also very much interested. I mean, Alero, you would understand this question. So how are you able to balance motherhood, wifehood, if there is such a word, and music, knowing that music, the expectations of the demands of the music industry can be very unregulated, could come at times, and so how do you balance them?
Firstly, I would like to just say thank God for my husband. He has been very supportive. He has been a lover of music. He loves worshiping, so he makes it all easy for me. Sometimes I will just see him singing out of tune, and once I join in, we are in for a ride. So he loves to worship. So that's made it so easy for me. He wants to support me. We do have our, sometimes like, no, you can't do this at this time. We didn't plan for this. It's just happening. I said, well, this is out of our hands now, my dear. This is in God's hand. We can't control it. He likes to plan everything. And I like to follow rules, but most of the time I break the rules. Because I tell you, like you said, it can be so unregulated. Things can just happen. Like yesterday, my pastor from the UK said I have to be in Ibadan to minister. And I was scheduled to do it on Friday. But on getting there, they said we had to wait till this morning. So that we had to quickly go and talk about it. What do we do? I saw his look. I'm like, okay, what do you want? Should we stay? Okay, let's stay. No, we're not staying. We're going back. Eventually, we had to be here today. So we came back last night, after last night. So it's not been too bad. With the children, they have their own setting. I mean, my children are in the UK. One is in the uni. I have a younger one who needs the attention mostly now. So I only have one that's...
I do beg your pardon. We just have to pause a little bit now.
Okay.
And go... I am sorry. Please carry on.
Oh, all right. So, yeah. Motherhood, I only have one that I have to focus on now. My children are doing very well. One is working. So the responsibility is becoming less and less. So, but majorly and most importantly, I have my husband to thank. I have him to thank. He made it all easy.
Your husband lives in Nigeria?
Yes.
And you live abroad?
With the children.
How do you juggle that?
See, when I tell you it's out of our hands, it's because sometimes we don't know, but it works. It's working for me.
It's working for you, but it can't be easy working in Naira and changing and sending to you in pounds.
Yes, I know. I know, Auntie. Auntie Alero, I know that. I know, but well, I have to just thank God that He's providing. It's not easy doing that bit, but thank God.
Okay. And you have 2 children?
Yes, I have 2 of my own, 2 steps. So all in all, I have 4.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
So that video that was just shown, where did you record that? Here or over there?
Over in the UK. We did that in the UK. But we felt we had to bring it back home as well. Kent is based in Nigeria. I was over there. So we were able to do it when it was with us over there. So, but we had to bring it back home, which is why we're doing this.
Why isn't your husband in that video?
Well, maybe next one. Auntie Alero. You want to put me in trouble.
Does he not support your ministry?
He does. He's the backbone. But, we will talk about that one. We have to do one with him in it.
He's shaking his head.
Mr. O. Mr. O of God.
Well, I actually, I know also that, don't worry, I know what Alera is trying to do there, but
we have to
you
do
also
that.
answered very,
Now
very
that you
well.
have said it.
I understand we should actually take a quick trip to Edo, but before then, let me just ask you this one. So here you are, you have put a signature on your music, on how people see Dunamis. Folk music and traditional mostly.
Yes.
And storytelling.
Yes.
Now, where do we is this your first album, by the way?
No, this is the fourth one actually.
Fourth?
Okay.
Yes. We started with Shemi Lore.
In 4 years?
No, singles has been, fourth in 4 years. It's every year we just release a single. We started with Shemi Lore and Bugbola, and we did Modukpe and now Duro Dolua. So it's been 4 in all.
Okay.
And it's all been the same kind of genre.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. All right. Thank you very much for coming. Dunamis Olufunke.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
we
you for having me.
All the best.
Thank you so much, Auntie Alero.
Yes.
Thank you, Okwayo.
Before we close the show, we have to nip over to Edo State and find out exactly what is going on. Sheun Okimbaloye is waiting to tell us what is going on. Hi, Sheun.
Hi, Alera. Welcome to the...
Oh, it's still raining over there.
Raining cats and dogs.
Oof.
Literally can see them on the road, rolling here and there. And the weatherman predicted, warned about this rain, that it will be for about 2 hours. And yes, the weatherman's warning came to pass. Of course, your producer, Ayola, knows much more about what the weatherman says and how it comes about. We've seen a lot of flooding these days, and the people of Edo State, of course, are getting a feel of it. It's not only in Benin City, it's been raining also in most parts of the state. And of course, in all the 18 local government areas and in the 4,519 polling units where voting and accreditation has since commenced. Well, Yaga Africa says that about 17% of polling units started early at about 8:30 a.m. and a lot of them had some delays in commencing the exercise. Thanks to the NYC, the core members who are on compulsory 1-year youth service to the nation, they are really doing an amazing job in getting this work done. But let's quickly have a quick chat with the Director of Welfare and Health Services at the NYC headquarters in Abuja, Mr. Omotade Ayola. He joins us live here, right here on Channels Television. It's good to see you.
Thank you very much.
How's it been for your core members that have been deployed? How many of them are deployed for these elections?
It's been very wonderful. I need to say this. And so far, so good. 2,550 core members are deployed in all the 18 local government council areas of the state as presiding officers of each polling unit. And we've been moving around the entire places, most especially within the metropolis in Benin here. And it's been very, very nice talking to our core members. There are no issues at all. Voting is going on peacefully, even in spite of the nature that is pouring down the rains for over 2 hours now. It's been very wonderful.
But Mr. Omotade, there seems to be some delay, not to the fault of the core members. But what are they telling you?
But I must say, with all due sense of responsibility, we've been around for quite a while on this duty. I must say, with all due sense of responsibility, that there has been a lot of tremendous improvement in the logistic arrangement of core members, for core members. We also moved around as a team yesterday to see the engagement of core members at the various RAC centers. It's been very wonderful. But I believe that a few issues here and there in terms of logistics will not impact negatively on what we are seeing on the ground.
But altogether, your relationship with INEC in this election, has it improved? And what, I mean, if there is an area that there should be an improvement, what would that be? You've been taking care of welfare of these core members in terms of their welfare, because a lot of them slept in these classrooms today. There are those who will say maybe the relationship could be better, and the welfare of these young Nigerians can also be improved upon in this kind of exercise.
Yes, we actually working on their welfare, and of course the relationship between NYC and NANEC on incremental basis. It can only get better. Don't also forget, life itself is a sacrifice, and even the work that the young men and women are doing is also a big sacrifice. No amount of compensation in terms of Naira and Kobo that will be able to compensate for whatever they are putting in terms of commitment and out of patriotism to their nation. But they come about, even in spite of whatever may be happening, they are fired up to contribute their quota to the development of the country. They see it as a call to national duty, which is very much more, accorded that importance, much more than any Naira and Kobo you want to talk about.
All right. Mr. Omotade Ayola, thank you so much indeed for your time.
Omotade Ayodele.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's nice talking to you, Sheil.
Thank you so much. The Director of Welfare and Health Services with the NYC at the headquarters in Abuja. And of course, there are a lot of people also monitoring these elections. One of those groups is the election monitoring arm of the Nigerian Bar Association. I will be speaking with the General Secretary, who is leading the team right here in Edo State. But if you look behind me, the voters are undeterred. Some of them are leaving their homes and they are taking shelter in some of the buildings and some of the tents they have around, and ensuring that the votes are cast right here. If you look around me, you see all of the polling units littered around here. But those people are very resolved into ensuring that their votes cast. Thank you so much, the General Secretary of the NBA, who is leading this exercise. Thank you so much indeed for coming. What's your observation so far in this election?
Yes, thank you very much, Seun. We arrived at the first polling station of ward that we got to this morning. We got there at about 8:25, and we observed at that polling unit that the INEC staff arrived on time. The setup was timely, and of course, generally, what we have observed with regards to the election here at the various stations that we have visited is that the elections are generally peaceful, orderly. In virtually all the wards we have visited, we also observe the presence of security operatives in and around the various polling stations. People are conducting the elections in an orderly manner, and we have not seen any security challenges.
But in terms of the operation and the deployment, it does look like there was a slow start in most polling units.
Well, like
and from the records, Yaga Africa that set up a PVT, were monitoring how early some of these materials are deployed, is saying that just about 70% of the polling units started at about 8:30 a.m. at the official starting hour. What do you have to say about the commencement of the exercise?
I must confess, like I said, most of we have also seen polling units where the officials arrived quite late, and of course we interacted with some of these officials. They blamed it on transportation. It was because of the fact that they could not get here on time, and because of they could not get transported on time.
Issue.
But that was why they got here late. But essentially, for most of the units that we have visited so far, I would say they commenced, for some of them who did not commence on schedule, maybe like 10-20 minutes behind schedule. But for most of them, like already 12 wards, units, is it 17 to 21 that we first visited? A lot of them have started at about 8:45, they're already voting. So accreditation and voting had commenced at about that time. So generally, we observed early commencement, and we also observed orderliness. the conduct of the election.
From the perspective of a lawyer and NBA, legally speaking, do you think everything is in order, especially in terms of security?
Yes, I just said that. You can see, as you can see yourself, the whole place is well secured. We only in this place alone, from my observation, we should have about close to 50 security operatives for these units here. So I would say the security, the protection of people and the properties and materials is in order.
All right.
To my mind,
thank you
from my observation.
Thank you so much, indeed. NBA General Secretary there, speaking with us on the situation. I think thanks so much indeed. I appreciate. Alero, Ayo, these are some of the issues that have come up in this election, which of course will be a major talking point going forward in the conduct of elections, not only in Edo State, of course, in Nigeria. We've seen some of the top candidates cast their ballots, and some of the pictures they were being able to show on China's television. And one of the intriguing ones is the arrest of some of those who are alleged to have been involved in vote buying, and EFCC had made some arrests in that respect. The Nigerian police force had also said they caught some persons with some ammunition, and the records are being investigated. And this is some of the situation we're monitoring. Of course, the official hour for the end of the exercise is 2:30 p.m. Anyone who is on the queue at that hour will be allowed to vote until the last moment when everyone has voted. And that's been some of the updates right here at the Agbado School in Akwapava in Benin City, Oredo local government area.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Shil. Yeah. Absolutely.
And that brings to a close our program for today. We hope that you will join us again next Saturday when Ayo, I hope, will be in Lagos. I'm Alero Edu, wishing you all the best this weekend and through the next week.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Do have a beautiful and productive week.
Bye-bye.